Hello, San Francisco. Welcome to Red Hat Summit 2016. First of all, let me start by thanking Jim Whitehurst and the Red Hat team for both the privilege and the pleasure of having a conversation with you today. And the conversation we're going to have is how we, collectively, as a community, are enabling OpenStack for all. At Dell, we've always believed that technology is about enabling human potential, and what we're going to talk about today is what we're doing in terms of products, what we're doing in terms of partnerships, what we're doing in terms of end-to-end solution offerings, and more importantly, how all of us can actually help enable not only that human potential, but take some of the really great work that's happening in OpenStack and make it available for everybody to take advantage of. But before I do that, I was actually reminded a lot of folks don't naturally think of Dell and all of the great technology and all of the wonderful partnerships and other things that we tend to do. So I was asked, hey, could you kind of do a quick level set? This is a mixed audience of developers, partners, customers, and just talk a little bit about what Dell and a whole bunch of others have done. And the way that we have that conversation at Dell is what we refer to as Did You Know? And over the last 12 months, we've actually been really, really busy at Dell. And when I say really, really busy, a lot of folks may not know we're the first and only company to have taken a solution that's automated, ironic, heat, and triple I/O, and put it in a single standardized deployment package. Why is that important? It's important because what happens is a lot of folks were taking those components, attempting to assemble them themselves, some being successful, some not being successful. We wanted to figure out a way where we could do that so everyone was successful. Pre-package it, pre-bundle it, make it ready to go, give it some level of architectural consistency so that it's not only faster, but ultimately it's easier. So the component parts are nice, but what we're all really focused on is how do we actually go enable cloud? So we've pivoted. 100% of everything our team does is now going upstream. And why are they doing that? Because they have the fundamental belief that everything that they're doing is helping them, helping us, and all of us collectively make cloud that much better. But it's not just about components and it's not just about clouds. It's also about how we're doing things with partners. You heard loud and clear, whether it's a combination of participation or partnership, that's how we're going to help evolve. That's how we're going to help create some of the great breakthroughs that we're all after. So one perfect example of that is what we've done not just with Red Hat, but what we've also done with a partner such as Big Switch. How do you take that collective innovation? How do you take all of the capabilities that the teams have and bring that to bear on a business result? And one of the ways that we've been able to do that and the business result that we've been able to execute is what we've done with Verizon. By partnering with Red Hat, by partnering with Big Switch, we were able to deliver the industry's largest network function virtualization deployment. And the reason why that's important is we were able to take OpenStack and bridge the traditional silo approach, which is the way that most folks would have done this. When you bridge that traditional silo approach, you not only can power better results, you can do them faster, you can do them more efficiently, and more importantly, you can allow the customer to focus on a business result and outcome as opposed to focusing on the iteration required. So we talked about partnerships, but we also want to talk about performance. And so what you're going to hear, and I believe the press release is already broke, is the work that we've done in partnership with the Spec Cloud org. Standing up a cloud is easy, but how do you make sure that that cloud is performing the way it should? How do you make sure that cloud continues to perform in the way that it should? So one of the things that we've been able to do is not just partnership, but actually show our belief in the systems. We were the first and only still, as of this morning, company to not only run the benchmarks, but actually publish our benchmarks. If you actually go out to the Spec Cloud website, you can see what the Dell platforms are doing, and more importantly, not just what we've done, help gauge how you're doing, help gauge how your community's doing, and more importantly, see how you can improve items overall. But all of this is not new for us. A lot of folks don't realize that we've been doing this for quite a long time. We were the first OEM to join the community. We were the very first to ship an OpenStack solution. And equally as important, we were the very first to actually put Linux inside an enterprise-class platform in our desktop piece. But like most leaders, we're not standing still. As you can probably tell, even with some of the great announcements that have come out, it's not about the individual components. How do you take all of these components, assemble them together, do them in a blueprinted, trusted, validated scenario whereby you can now go help push the results? And a great example of that is what we've done with not only Ceph, but our most recent DSS 7000 platform. By taking a software-defined, highly dense, performance-optimized platform, we're able to now deliver new classes of solutions. So enough of the did you knows. Let's talk about now how we collectively and as a community are going to enable OpenStack for all. Now, this whole enabling OpenStack for all, not a new concept for us. As a matter of fact, I asked the team, let's take a look at if we were to be graded as to how we have fared over the last 12 months, or more importantly, since Dell stood before you on this similar stage, how have we done on delivering that promise? And before I get to how we've delivered on the promise, which frankly, we would look at it as promises made, promises kept, if I were to take that entire conversation and distill it down into two bare essences, I would say it's two things. We promised that we would take complexity and reduce it down to something very simple. We also promised that we would keep OpenStack open, not create walled gardens, not create our own distros, not create anything that would actually wall any of our customers in. Continue to give them choice, continue to give them options, and let them innovate in a way that they want to go innovate. So how did we fare over the last 12 months? Well, here's a list of what we have collectively accomplished. The first thing we did is we wound up integrating the last two releases, whether it's Kilo or Liberty. We now have those into engineered systems. Why is that important? You can imagine if you take the old school way of getting each of the individual components, assembling them yourself, testing, validating, iterating, by the way, do loop, test, iterate, validate, get up and running, or new way, prepackaged, ready to go, maybe 70 to 80% of it ready to go, allow our customers to focus on getting to time to value, time to innovation, or in the case of HPC, time to breakthrough. The fact that we've been able to work with Red Hat, with Intel, and multiple others, we can now ensure that our customers are focusing on getting to the end answer, and as we like to joke, they can focus on innovation, allow us to focus on infrastructure. But that's just the first piece. The second thing is that we've taken a lot of the great innovation that all of you have come up with and have now integrated into our products. Ceph is a perfect example of that. When I think about the great work that the teams have done in terms of Ceph, and Ceph to me is a scalable, software-defined storage, it wasn't just about integrating that into a platform. It was about making a difference. And the way we're able to make that difference is we not only came up with the platform, but we were able to automate the deployment and the management tool set for both the OpenStack and the software-defined piece. You heard Doug talk a little bit about partnerships, and partnerships are key. Participation is key. Last year, we talked about high availability. We said that in order for true OpenStack cloud systems to be accepted, they had to be reliable. So we talked about high availability. We talked about VM migrations. The good news is all of those are now inside the platforms. The better news is we didn't just stop at the platforms. We actually looked at programs. And when I say programs, you heard Doug talk about on-ramp. How do you create a methodology where people now have access to the technology, can test it, validate it, run it, and come up with their own innovations, similar to what you heard earlier? So we like to refer to that at Dell as creating a life cycle offering, not just the product, but even the last mile execution. And not just in terms of the software itself, but even on the platforms. As of last year, we're proud members of Redfish. Redfish is where multiple OEMs, multiple tier 1s have gotten together and said, what if we were able to come up with a methodology that allowed everybody's hardware to relatively work with each other, giving people more heterogeneity, giving people more choice, giving them the options to pick and choose the ones that they prefer. That's what we've been able to put in place because that ultimately gives folks a lot more choice. And then one that I'm really proud of the team's work, and it's what we've done with OpenShift. OpenShift is now on our platforms and sitting on OpenStack. Why is that important? Because it's the first OpenStack solution that has containerized application support. Imagine, you can now develop once and deploy anywhere. And so this is basically breaking ground in terms of how do we go create true hybrid platform as a service capabilities in terms of being able to deliver that to customers. Now, that's a great list of technology. Yes, it might be a really nice list of achievements. But at the end of the day, what did it really do? How did it deliver? How did it make a difference? And I'm proud to give you one example, and it's an enterprise example, of how we've done that with Verizon, and more importantly, have done it in partnership with Red Hat, and have done it with partnerships with Big Switch. If you look at the Verizon deployment, it is literally the industry's largest NFV implementation. When I say the largest NFV implementation, not just we had a bunch of really smart people go to one data center. This is actually in 5 different data centers around the world. The team used what's referred to as a core and pod approach, and so they were able to stand it up in multiple data centers, and they were able to do it with no bandwidth or bottlenecks. So not our opinion, but the customer's opinion. They fundamentally believe that this is going to be foundational for them to build the Verizon cloud, and more importantly, from an agility perspective, which is why folks want to go to cloud, they believe that this gives them the capability of now being able to do changes at the pace of software and at the speed of their competition. But it's not just about big enterprises. We also do this for smaller folks. We also do this for academia. And if you look at what we've been able to do with Monash University, think of, for those of you that don't know, Monash University, very well-respected R&D university in Australia. They have an HPC-like deployment. And when I say an HPC-like deployment, high-performance computing, not just for what they do, but for hundreds and hundreds of researchers. They're providing the computational firepower that's allowing people to work on some of the toughest issues on the planet. But they ran into a problem, as you can tell. They do everything from simulation to virtualization. This just happens to be an image of some of their virtualization work. The problem, though, is that they were doing this on different types of platform. The problem is that researchers had to wait in line in order to get access to the infrastructure. So what did we do? We partnered up with several folks, and now Monash University and all of the researchers, the hundreds of them that are working on tough problems, not only have on-demand global access to their project data, pretty much eliminating queues, the IT team can continuously optimize and improve, so they're not having to buy a lot of equipment over and over again. And instead of having siloed, differentiated offerings for each of the different classes of research, they can have one type of infrastructure and provide multiple qualities of services for each. And more importantly, they're able to do that in an ultra cost-effective fashion. And as you can see here, they're able to do it with a 75% more cost-efficient than the various other offerings. So again, to help make it real, these are the kind of things where we jointly, we as a community, we as the folks who are enabling OpenStack, this is the kind of difference that we can make when we all decide to participate, when we all decide to partner. But we didn't just talk about how we're going to focus on complexity to simplicity. We also said that we wanted to keep OpenStack basically truly open. And when I say that, to look at how we've actually fared, we've actually done pretty well. This also falls under the promises made, promises kept. And what we've done is that if you look at the fact that everything that we do is now 100% got upstream delivery, yes, we've basically put in place a lot of deployment tools. We put in place Ironic, Heat, and Triple O. But we like to think of this as, and we use the phrase at Dell, innovation for and inspired by. It's not just about our teams taking their collective capabilities and putting something into the open source community. We also utilize this as a methodology to hear what are some of the toughest issues that our customers and our partners and our downstream collaborators are facing. What kind of innovations can we target our intellectual firepower at? Hence the phrase innovation for and inspired by. But it's not just about the capabilities and what we've done in terms of the upstream delivery. How do we ensure that what we put in place is quality? So as you can see, over the last 2 releases, whether it was Tempest or Rally, we were the first to take open tools and use those to ensure or assure that the deployments were put in place. And once they're put in place, how do we also make sure that you're getting the best possible performance? And that's what we've done with the OpenStack Cloud Benchmark. And if you go to the website, which is @spec.org, you can see that it's not only about the fact that we were the first and only, now we as a community have a methodology that we can see all of these different types of deployments, all of these different types of components, all of these different types of engineered systems and solutions. We have the capability of measuring how is that performance for the individual platform and how is that in regards to the larger community. Why is that important? Because we can use that to continuously improve. We can use that to continuously make better, and equally as important, we can figure out what are the bottlenecks in the systems we build to ensure that we are giving the scientists, the innovators, the small and medium businesses the best possible tools. As a matter of fact, the running joke with our team is they love the benchmark so much, we're the only team who's published twice in terms of that, and you can actually see that when you go to the website. So again, if we were to look at how are we doing on this journey, how are we doing on this continuum, not just from a Dell perspective, but Dell, partnership, and to some extent the larger continuum, I'd say we're actually doing pretty well. But we know in our industry we cannot rest. We know in our industry that if you stop, bad things will happen because we're always on a continual innovation cycle. So where are we going from here? Real simple. If you look at where we're headed, we want to continue to drive simplicity, and the reason why we want to drive simplicity is not for simplicity's sake, is because we want to enable OpenStack so we can have much more wider use. And you can see the scenarios we're going to put in place. How do we optimize single clouds so they run on multiple workloads? How do we have faster development of cloud-native applications? How do we take deployment of those applications so they work across multiple clouds? And then how do we take new infrastructure efficiencies, whether it's efficiencies in storage, whether it's efficiencies in architectures, whether it's efficiencies in data or performance or price? Those are the things we're putting in place. Now you may ask, wow, that's a pretty bold vision. How are you going to do that? Well, the good news is we're going to take a lot of what you already know. We're going to take the things that you know in terms of enterprise virtualization. We're going to take the cloud IT VMware-based or VM-based scenarios. And then equally as important, all of these new models that are coming in, pick your favorites, whether it happens to be around container-based or other components, and we're going to orchestrate them, we're going to align them, and what will come out is a very simple roadmap. Now, as you can imagine on a public stage, I'm not going to get into too much of the roadmap, but I am going to get very much into the directional. Where are we going, both as Dell, our partnerships, and equally as important as a larger community? Real simple. Expect in the second half of this year, you're going to see a lot more announcements coming out in terms of how we're enabling more OpenShift. How are we making it faster? How are we making it more efficient? And more importantly, how are we creating a flexible resource that allows people to not only be able to use containers, but be able to now take that particular deliverable and be able to move it into multiple locations and multiple types of clouds. Expect to see a lot more in terms of cloud forms. We fundamentally believe that multi-cloud is going to be something that our customers are asking us for. So in partnership with Red Hat and various others, you're going to start to see more and more of a, how do we not just deliver on a hybrid cloud, but how do we deliver on a multi-cloud vision? And then as we get into 2017, you're going to see a whole bunch of brand new workloads. I use the Monash example as one. And people may or may not realize this, but by looking at things such as IDC data, 1 out of every 4 future compute sale nodes in the, by 2018 are most likely going to be HPC-like. That's the interesting part. The more interesting part is that even HPC, as we traditionally know it, is fundamentally morphing. You're starting to see more cloud. You're starting to see more big data. So as these new type of workloads, as these new type of cloud-native applications come out, we want to make sure that they're readily available on OpenStack. And last but not least, we want to make sure that we have the capability of delivering coexistence. And when I say coexistence, whether it's traditional infrastructure, whether it's cloud native, or whether it's containerized applications, we want all of those to be able to work in an all-in-one cloud. So with that, what I'm going to ask you to do is, we believe that the future ahead is bright. We think it's a great path forward, and so we want you to join us. And the way you're going to join us, or the way I'm going to ask for that in this enabling of our OpenStack for all mentality, is I'm going to ask you for three things. First, go down to our booth, take a look at what's going on in booth number 701. We've got products, we've got experts, we've got SMEs, we've got great partners, and in some cases we actually have customers. Listen to how we collectively have been helping them along. Attend one of the breakout sessions. We have two. First one has to do with how we're going to do a scientific approach to an elastic problem, which is basically measuring cloud performance. And then how do you do a repeatable, reliable OpenStack deployment? It's a lot more than a pipe dream. You saw two examples. And then third is engage with us. We have experts not only from each of the areas, but we have a lot of our partners. You can see the list of names here. Come have a conversation with us. Tell us what you're working on. Tell us how we can help, and more importantly, how we can participate, how we can communicate, and how we can actually collaborate to help deliver that. And so with that, I want to basically say thank you very much for allowing us to have the conversation, and I wish you a really great rest of show.